Okay, ready? All right. Today we're going to deal with developing and rebuilding Black communities. And we got a lot of people that are talking about the issues that are going on in Black communities. But it's important for Black people to, if they're saying that they want to fix Black communities, and they're saying that they're ready to deal with some of the inferiorities that they've allowed to take over Black communities, then the first thing that they need to start focusing on, because they've lost a lot of Black communities, and they've lost a lot of progress that was made between 1900 and 1950. So they're going to have to look back at that progress and see the things that were done under even worse circumstances, under even more oppression and different things. And they're going to have to see how Black people actually was able to achieve some of that stuff. Yes, a lot of it was able to be done because Black people had no choice but to deal with each other. But a lot of the stuff that was done as far as Black schools and different things were done because Black people were simply tired of not having Black communities up to the standards or up to the level that Black people wanted. And once you get to that point where you know that, okay, this doesn't make any sense, we are able to do these things, why isn't it getting done? And you start telling yourself, okay, no more waiting for the very people who caused the downfall of the community. No more waiting for them to be the ones to fix the community, because if they do come in and fix it, it's not going to be for Black people. So in order for Black people to fix these communities and fix these Black cities, they're going to have to make the decision to start developing everything from education and schools to community centers to senior centers, different things for Black people, once again, so that they can start getting these cities back together. Hey, if you don't, and other people come in and take over the communities that used to be yours, fix them up, and now you can't afford to go there, you have no one to blame but yourself, because you had what it took. You simply made the choice not to do it. We have when it comes to developing your Black community, there are specific things that are not being done that must be done, okay? So we'll start with things like the simplest part, which is real estate. All development of any community begins with real estate. Now, Black people have lost a lot of real estate because of the different things that they were doing, trying to be like white folks, taking on more than they should have, abandoning things that they had in their families for years, and trying to move out to places that were $300,000 and $400,000. Okay, you made those mistakes. There's nothing that you can do to take back those mistakes. They were made. And white people took full advantage of the fact that you were trying and working so hard to be like them and to be around them and live next door to them and whatnot. They simply took advantage and drained your resources so quickly. By the time you realize what happened, you were broke. Okay? You understand what happened. Now it's time to go back to what you know works. Okay, so in some of the Black communities that many of you left, there are whole blocks that are available. Okay, so when it comes to developing, you have a block that has, let's say, 10 houses on one side, 10 houses on the back side. That's 20 houses that may be in bad condition, or whatever the situation is. But as long as you have that land, that whole block of land, there's plenty of stuff that you can do. So back in the day, you would have a group of black people or one black person, if they were able to afford it, uh, get that block of land and take down whichever houses were dilapidated to the point where they couldn't be salvaged, or take down all of them. And what you would see then is they start from scratch, from the ground up, start rebuilding the community based on what the black community actually needed. So if you take down 20 houses on a block and you put up a gate around that entire block, inside that block can be an actual black community. And what happens with that, you can put in one corner, you can put a community center that would have taken up what used to be one house. You can put a store in the corner that would have taken up, would be in the place of what was once a single house. You could even, many of the houses in some of these cities already have basements, which means that you have storage areas for that store that's below ground. You already have plumbing and different things that are attached to each house, so that each building that you put up already has the ability for you to put in a male and female bathroom. All kind of things. An office building, you can put in one of the corners where all you need is a 4-unit office building. One you use for the running of that particular community. The other 3 you can use for as incubation centers for businesses, or rent them out, whatever the situation. But you already have the plumbing in place to be able to put a shower in there. You can set up a place where you can do events. All kinds of things can be done with those corners. And then, of course, in your 4th corner, you can go ahead and put up your whatever your spiritual place is. It's best for rebuilding black communities that you do it without religion, because that's one of the things that we know for a fact have divided black communities, divided black people all over the world. And if you can bring yourself to have the guts to build a black community, and instead of having that last corner for a church or whatever, build a senior center. You have a community center for the young people to be able to do talent shows and whatever at the far corner. But at this corner, try building a senior center so that seniors can have a place to deal with other seniors. Now you have a community where people are actually functioning, not, enslaved by some fictitious religion or some denomination of whatever, but actually functioning, and people, being able to do their daily lives and different things, and actually learn what they need to learn, build what they need to build on, and things like that. That's real development. And then, of course, in the middle, you can have actual houses or 2-story places, duplexes, whatever your community needs. But it's time for those that are able to start actually taking some of these blocks. Don't just look at a house. Don't just look at, at your house as in, if I fix up my house, it's up to my neighbors to fix up theirs, because you may only have a couple of neighbors. And, of the 20 houses, in the 10 in your row and the 10 behind you, it may only be 4 people still there. So you need to start thinking of it in blocks. Because when people come to take over your black communities, they're going to be looking at it in blocks. They're not going to be looking at individual houses. They're going to be looking at it in blocks, and you've seen it happening. So it's time for you to start looking at developing your black community. If you see a black community that needs to be developed, needs to be redone, or if you see your own black community needs to be rebuilt, and in one of the corners you might, instead of putting a senior center, you might want to build a school for the younger children, and then take up what would have been a couple of houses and build a school, some sort of school for the older children. And that way you got two separate exits, two separate entrances for the two different age groups, and you're able to actually teach what it is that you need to teach black children in order for them to be able to not only sustain that community and keep that community flourishing, but branch out and build their own communities when the time comes. Okay, so partnering with the college, the black colleges that are nearby. There's so many things that you can do when it comes to developing and rebuilding black communities. But remember, we have a timeline going right now that's from January 1st, 2010, all the way to December 31st, 2019. So those of you that are working on that timeline, start looking at some of these places in Philadelphia or Detroit or Chicago, Atlanta, Harlem. Yes, you've lost a lot of ground in Harlem. But remember, many of your ancestors, and we're going to do a show about reclaiming your ancestral burial grounds, where your people are. You should be wondering, where did white people bury all of your ancestors that they killed and that died? Where are those people at? Where are those bones buried? There are thousands of mass graves all over the place. And you have whites that have developed different properties and whatnot on top of those graves. You need to start asking, where are my people buried? Where did you bury, all those slaves that you hung? Where are they? Where are their bones? Y'all need to start asking that, and we're going to do a show to go through the steps that you need to go through to really start finding your ancestors, finding those bones, finding where they're buried, so that you can start reclaiming those burial grounds. But as far as development goes, you guys have got to start back developing black communities for black people. I see black people accepting all kinds of stuff. And we're going to have a show about how white folks were able to get you to accept every perversion under the sun. I mean, you accepting everything now. It's absolutely incredible. I told you, you're able to see just by looking around how whites were able to get black people to help them facilitate the slave trade. Because when I see how easily it is for whites to come in and get you to accept everything from homosexuality, having sex with animals, having sex with children, all these different things that you would think your common sense would say, oh no, we don't want that in our community. They've tricked you or forced you or whatever they've done to your mind, but they've gotten you to actually participate in the demise of your own black communities. That's incredible. That means that if they decided that they wanted to reinstitute the slave trade, they have millions of blacks already set up to help them refacilitate it. That's a problem. And you are the ones who decide whether or not drugs are sold in your community. If there's a drug dealer in your community, I told you, it's up to you whether or not you let children stand on the corner and sell drugs. That's all up to you. If the adults in the community don't get together and say, no way, take that to some other community, take that somewhere else with that. Um, if you don't have the guts to say, not in our community, not in our black community, then you have actually accepted the demise of your own community, and that's what you did. You watched one by one, like dominoes, you saw black communities fall until entire cities fell that used to be black. So if you want to correct that, you have to start by rebuilding and start by developing block by block what it is that those black communities now need. Now that it's gotten to a point where it's reached, a low level, you have to accept that, okay, we made some huge mistakes. We allow religion you allow whites to use religion to get us to build big, giant, multi-million-dollar buildings while the houses and the community around us completely crumbled. You have to admit to yourself that you allowed white folks to close down schools and displace a bunch of black children, and you allowed this. Now you have to decide, okay, there are some abandoned schools, 4 or 5, however many. We are about to lay claim to those buildings and rebuild black schools so that black teachers can teach black children black history that they need in order to actually improve their intelligence. It doesn't make any sense for black communities to have allowed the intelligence level to get to this lower point that people just don't even know the basic things that are needed in order to make a community flourish. That's a problem. Okay, so when it comes to developing, look at each block. Get a piece of paper and make a map of the blocks around your block. Now, start with your block in the middle and make a map of your city, at least the 13, your block and the 12 blocks around you. Make a map of that so that you know what you're dealing with between now and December 31st of 2019. And you roll up your sleeves and you make the decision that if I have to start by myself, that's fine. As each day that I'm out there, or each day that I'm working on it, you're looking for other people that feel the way you do. And they're out there. They may be working on something by themselves, and they're looking for people. And you'll find that if you're looking for people that feel like you do, eventually you're going to find them. And together, you guys start building block by block, rebuilding block by block what is needed in order to fix these issues that you've allowed to deteriorate. Okay, so I told you guys that I'm trying to venture a little bit now. It's not going extremely well, but it's not going as bad as I thought it would. I do get still dizzy and it lays me down a little bit, but we're going to deal with each of the things that are necessary between now and December 31st, 2019 to get some of this, fix some of these problems that we know we should have fixed a long time ago. Some of them we shouldn't even let get to this point. But, it happened. Now we have to face it and say, how do we roll up our sleeves and now start fixing it, so that when we look at the 10 years between 2000 and 2010, we know we made a lot of financial mistakes. When you look at the years between 1990 and 1999, you know you made a lot of entertainment mistakes. When you look at the years between 1980 and 1989, you know you made a lot of black family mistakes and real estate mistakes that you should have seen, been able to recognize. And of course, from 1970 to 1979, you saw your parents and grandparents make a lot of integration mistakes that they should have, that many of them recognized was a mistake at the time, and they kept going with it. They knew it was a mistake, and they kept going. That's a problem. Okay, same thing with religion. You know that it's not doing what white folks claim that it would do. Yet you cannot let it go. You keep going. White folks have y'all so enslaved by these religions that you are willing to let everything around you completely crumble while you're waiting for this white savior that white folks told y'all about. That's a problem. I mean, it really is a problem. Because if you look at from 1970 to 1999, you see yourself, the different things that you, your parents, grandparents did were huge mistakes. I mean, just so obvious and so blatant that you should have immediately stopped in your tracks and said, oh no, but you didn't, you kept going. And now since 2000, you've seen yourself not only paying for the mistakes of 1970 to 1999, but you've seen yourself making even more mistakes. And in some cases, repeating the same mistake again. It's time to stop and say, okay, let's stop digging this hole. Let's stop. And let's start fixing things. We know that we can do it. We know we have what it takes. We've allowed the intelligence level of the black community to get ridiculously low. That has to change. So now, once you know that, once you realize that, and you make the decision for everything that you're trying to fix, it starts with raising the intelligence level of those in the black community. You have to do that. You have to start raising the intelligence level of the children, the babies between, 1 and 10. You have to start raising the intelligence level of the children 10 to 18. You need to start raising the intelligence level of those that are 19 to 21. It's time to start raising these intelligence levels. If there's something you don't know, it's time for you to find it out. If there's something that you see is devastating your community, stop thinking you have to accept everybody and everything. Because it's killing you, it's killing your children, it's killing your communities. You have to stop. Otherwise, you are one of the problems. And when it comes to, 2020 to 2029, you're going to be in even worse shape than you are now. So if you want things to develop between now and 2019, you need to roll up your sleeves and start working on it. And then when you get to 2020 to 2029, you'll simply be maintaining and building up on what you've already done. You'll be developing your communities over the next few years so that when 2020 comes, and between 2020 and 2029, you'll already have your schools and your black schools back in place. You already have your black colleges back on the right track. There's no way a white company should have been able to bring down a black school. That shows that you have caught slipping. For a white company to be able to take down a black college or a black school means that they caught you slipping. You need to start looking at those things. The only person that should be assessing and making adjustments to black schools is black people. Okay? And you gotta stop being afraid to say the word black. You're about to try and develop your black community. You're about to try and rebuild your black community. And the only way that you can do that is by being honest and saying, we're about to do things to change the situation for the next black generations. That's what we're going to do. Okay? So, I'm going to leave you guys with that. And hopefully you'll start looking around. You can start today. Start looking around at your community. Or go back and visit the community, the black community that you abandoned. Go back and look and see. Yes, it's going to be heartbreaking to see what it has become. But I want you to look at it. Walk all the way around what used to be your block. And see the possibilities. Walk around your block. See how many houses are left. See how many empty fields are already ready for you to start developing on. And start, take a pad and pen and start seeing what you can put in that block of real estate and that block of land to start rebuilding things and start developing those communities back to the way that you know they're supposed to be. Okay? So, well, y'all know us, the way we do things. I'm still here and we're still here. We're going to deal with some things. Okay?